Good morning and welcome to the first UKAEG Going Global Masterclass event. My name is Conlon. I'm the Marketing Manager for the UK Advertising Export Group, or UKAEG as you'll hear us call it today. The UKAEG is an industry partnership with UK government to accelerate profile and lead generation opportunities in international markets. The content that you've just seen is an example of our outputs. That is our UK Advertising Made Global campaign that we launched last September. And to date, it's been aired across Europe, China, and even last week it was in the States at South by Southwest. This event today is part of UKAEG's Export Month. It's our third Export Month, and it serves to boost the industry's global ambitions as we look forward to the recovery from COVID-19, but also new trading relationships overseas. Our aim at UKAEG is to support the international growth of the UK's advertising and marketing services. We want to encourage UK advertising related businesses to go global. Our latest export report showed that international trade in UK advertising and marketing research services, grew 7% year on year and reached a record level of 11 billion in 2019. It also showed that the US remains the largest single country importer, importing 1.1 billion worth of UK advertising and does remain the #1 spot. It also showed that the share for EU countries was down significantly from the previous year's figures of 53%. And this to us showed that UK advertising is now orientating towards new markets across the world. These figures are testament to the resilience and underlying strength of advertising in the UK. UK advertising remains the world's centre of excellence and a gateway for companies looking to go global. With its pool of diverse skills, global talent, and world-class creative capabilities, the UK advertising market is not just a gateway to Britain, it's a gateway to everywhere. But don't just take my word for it. Today, we're going to be joined by expert panelists who will discuss their experiences of working globally, the challenges, the opportunities, and why we all work together to drive the success of our vibrant and exciting sector. This is an interactive session, so we would love you to join the conversation. We want to hear your questions. Please use the Q&A box on the bottom of your panel, and we will take questions later on in the session. So, without further ado, I would like to invite you to meet each of our panelists. We'll then have a short chat, and then we'll open to the floor for your questions. So, welcome Marie, Jamie, Andy, and Zaid.
Hi.
Hello. So everyone's going to give a quick introduction so that people in the room can get to know you all and who you are and what your businesses are, etc. So Marie, perhaps you'd like to go first.
Sure. Hi, Anne-Marie. Thanks for having me along this morning. I'm the owner, founder and CEO of LS Productions. We are now the UK's largest production services business. I started this business 15 years ago as a hobby idea around my kitchen table, but I also at that time had a global mindset and understood what the opportunities of going global could do for me. I have 21 staff at the moment, and we have 3 UK offices, London, Manchester and Edinburgh, but I do have a number of staff that are based across the globe, so people based in Berlin, Abu Dhabi, Bangkok and LA. I think that's really helpful in having someone with access to the market, but also someone who understands what that local market is like. We'll probably talk a bit more about that later on. And currently our clients are about 60-65% international, coming from main markets, France, Germany, US, New York and LA in the main, and Sweden. And we work with agencies, production companies, and with brands direct. So it gives us a whole lot of opportunity.
Thank you. Jamie?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you ever so much for having me here. My name is Jamie Sargent. I'm the CEO of Crowd. We are a global marketing agency and have offices in San Francisco, New York, Amsterdam, Madrid, London, Bournemouth, Dubai, Chengdu and Shenzhen in China, and most recently Sydney. And we have 22 different nationalities on staff. We speak 16 different languages, and we help businesses market themselves into different and new territories. and have been doing so for the last 8 years. We have a really diverse makeup. We probably export about 70% of what we do, but by having people on the ground, we're able to be a business's sort of local talent, so as we can culturalize marketing messages across the globe.
And Andy.
Hi everyone, I'm a creative director and co-founder of Draw and Code. We're an immersive experiences company based originally here in Liverpool. Essentially, we use technology as magic to tell beautiful experiences. But we're based in Liverpool with a Liverpool sensibility and a way of kind of the kind of globalization, with people kind of coming in and out of the city and history of Liverpool to essentially attack and partner and build relationships globally. So we have partners and collaborators and clients around the world, in North America, Europe, Australia, China, and just recently Russia. We find it really exciting at how we can kind of understand the landscape of technology, like everything that's out there, and partnering with technologies that are the big Facebooks of this world and the tiny independents, and seeking them out wherever they may be in the tiny kind of sheds of North Carolina or Sydney, and try and understand them and how they fit within the landscape of some of our partners, arts and heritage institutions, brands, and technology companies themselves.
Thank you. And Zaid.
Good morning, thank you for having me. So I'm Zaid Zaidy, the CEO of the Beyond Collective. The Beyond Collective is a micro network of 3 core agencies. Above and Beyond is our advertising agency, Yonder Media is our media agency, and we have a strategic consultancy called Frontier. They all, even though we're an office in London with a team of 55 people, I would say at least half of our activity is globally related. So we work with the likes of Amazon strategically and creatively, and from day one we've delivered international campaigns. Somehow we've managed to work with the Chinese, well, thanks to UKAEG actually, and we've been able to take on briefs with mobile phone giant OnePlus and deliver gamified brand experiences that have extended into China, India, Spain, Germany. Having worked in big network agencies, I'm a big believer that you don't have to have boots on the ground. Often actually it's predicated on your client's organizational model, which dictates whether you can or cannot operate usefully for them on a global level. We find that with our clients, like some Amazon and OnePlus, that we can, and it's a very exciting time, I believe, for agencies to see how they can jump on the bandwagon of growth that Ashlyn described earlier on.
Thank you very much, everybody. So I'd also like to welcome Janet Hull to the floor, who wears many hats in the creative industry, and one of those is the chair of UKAEG. So welcome, Janet.
Thanks very much, Ashlyn, and hello, everybody. And I think I'm here just to ask some questions of the panel. So listening to you, you're so impressive because you're all independent businesses, and in numbers of people, you're not huge. But when you listen to the global scope of your operations, I just have to go, wow. And so I'm thinking, looking at the 4 of you, there are 2 of you who don't have offices overseas, and there are 2 of you that have lots of offices overseas. And I'm thinking of the people who might be listening to this webinar and where they might be coming from. And I'd love for you to talk about how you came to develop your particular strategy for going global, because I know in the commentary around this event, we talked about helping people develop a framework to build an international business development strategy. So I'd love you to talk about how you built your particular version of a business development strategy to go global. Who would like to start? Shall we start with you, Marie, since you started proceedings before?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. I was thinking, wow, what has happened across the 15 years? But I suppose what I said in my opening statement about always having a global mindset and thinking there is a opportunity in as long as people across the world actually know about our business and what we actually do. I was also thinking that the reason our offices at the moment are all based in the UK is that what we really sell is the UK. So our job is really to put the UK on the map as a sort of hub for production, and to take away any assumptions about what the UK can and cannot offer. And that's a big part of what we do. Some of the reasons we have gone global in terms of our personnel and where they live is for personal reasons. And pre-COVID, before Zoom and Google, etc., were the sort of mainstream, I always had the sort of mindset that people could live or work where they like to and try and create this work-life balance. But in terms of building a strategy, it was really all about marketing for me to begin with. And very simplistically, if people didn't know about us, why on earth would they get on a plane from LA and come to the UK? And if they didn't not only know what the UK could offer, but they understood us as a business and what we could offer, the type of culture that we have, kind of what our values are, that type of thing. So I think from a very early stage, probably when I employed 4 people, maybe my 5th employee was head of marketing. And at that stage, people laughed, said that's not going to give you any revenue. And, you just need operational people that bring in the money. And my mindset was always, if people don't know, how on earth will they ever work with us? And it's always been very much been front of mind for me in that type of strategy about reaching out to clients, building relationships. And why should that be on your doorstep? There's just so much opportunity, as I said before, in understanding your customers and where they may happen to live. And I think just like what Andy said, it's amazing finding who works out of a shed in North Carolina, or when you get a chance to work with some super agency out of LA, they're both just as exciting, but there's a whole world to explore. So I think, to me, mindset is key for that.
So a global mindset from the beginning. So can I ask, Andy, did you start with a global mindset, or did you start with a local mindset and then global came later? What was your evolution?
It's, in all honesty, to begin with, we had no global strategy. When we started the business, you start a business with a passion to be creative and make things and build product. You quickly realize you need to build networks and relations and all the rest. But we were thinking very UK based. We were a kind of more a traditional software and web and animation business with the stuff that we did. And John, my business partner, and myself put all of our R&D and time into the stuff that really excited us, which is where the interactive technology and the creative combine and mush together to build on immersive experiences. And I guess our global strategy built with the ambitions of XR and the emergence of technology. And as that grew and we were playing with them, we very quickly realized about 7 years ago, if we're going to understand our place in this landscape, we're going to have to go to the horse's mouth, so to speak. So we had no idea whether or not our stuff was any good, but we took a space at the Augmented World Expo in 2014, in the middle of Silicon Valley with all these big technology giants, and just thought, well, we'll give it a punt, and we'll quickly know if we're not. And we quickly realized that there was a focus in technology globally, and there still is to some extent on the hardware and the capabilities of the hardware, and not the content and the heart and the reason to use that. And I think UK plays a really important part, and we soon found that exporting wherever you are from in the UK, like Liverpool and London to Americans are aligned. Wherever you are from the UK, the reputation is huge for creating innovative, creative content. And we haven't looked back. The partnerships that we started building from there, were not immediate. It's slow burns, and you start to, and it's really important that, a little bit of advice before I shut up and let other people talk is to not just build a partnership to get a quick win but meet with people that are going to be there as both your support network, as your confidence building, but also, you know, the folks that in 2-3 years time are going to be in another position to want to partner and collaborate with you on incredible things. And yeah, that's, now we have a global strategy, and we spend more time away from the UK in normal times than we've probably spent in the UK.
So very much just having a go, not being afraid to have a go.
Damn right.
And it worked. And
Yeah.
then thinking long term about it once you'd explored it and discovered your place within it.
Yeah, don't fear taking measured risks. You know, you kind of go, oh, well, maybe that's not right for me, but you don't know until you try, and try these different trade missions. The virtual ones are great. You don't, you know, the measured risk is, do I log on at 9 in the morning to try, you know, catching up folks in Sydney that are doing something, you know, like I think it's there are still exciting opportunities out there, and I think it's really important to connect with people around the world.
Thanks very much. And Zaid, you began to tell us about your strategy, which is, I don't need offices all around the world to service global business. Do tell us more.
Yeah, so I think that actually, if I reflect, about 2/3 of my career has been working on global brands, either client side at Unilever, where I was trained, or on big global brands in big network agencies. So I've seen agencies struggle and succeed with delivering work globally, and I'm entirely fearless about what it takes to deliver great work. So from a client's point of view, they also know the pitfalls of working with a big network agency. So everyone's aware that there's no perfect model. So I think starting from a point of view of being fearless is the first thing. Secondly, strategically, and my background is strategic planning, is that big ideas, global ideas, the best ones resonate at a universal kind of human truth level. And thanks to Hollywood originally, I guess, we were enjoying a shared cultural economy. And now, thanks to gaming and the rise of the creator economy and social platforms like TikTok, the geographical barriers that would have created you know, limitations to what you could achieve with an idea out of a London office increasingly being eliminated. And also we have now a network of planners in many markets that can also bring into us those cultural nuances as and when we need them. Recently we pitched for a massive global dairy brand, and Germany was a key market, and we worked with a former planning lead at TBWA that I know, who's now set up an independent consultancy, and we were able to provide high-level strategic consumer insight to input into that process. So my experience is there's no perfect model. You can get cultural insight in many different new ways, and actually now, thanks to COVID, dare I say it, we now know that you can be in multiple markets in a single day. So actually a London agency can be in New York in, you know, one time of the day, and China the next. Now it's tiring, but it's possible. So I think the opportunity is limitless, and I think it starts with being fearless and knowing that there is no right answer. It's just finding the right clients with the right framework and building out the right solutions.
Thank you so much. And I take out of also what you're saying, you don't have to own it to use it. You know, your example of finding planners when you needed them, they weren't people that you were employing at the time, they were in the freelance community, but you could harness that power in the right geography to help you.
Yeah, I mean, Yonder Media has now got its first international client, Acquia Wood, and we're now partnering with a US media agency to have US media buying capabilities, and a German media agency, and that's a really early stage partnership, but it demonstrates that you don't need to be a massive global media agency to service a client brilliantly. So we can focus on building an amazing team, and then a really great network, and then we can deliver equally brilliant solutions for any of our clients.
And you can basically tailor make it to the client need rather than be hampered by the organizational structure that you've got.
Yeah, and we're probably hopefully a bit cheaper and definitely a lot better and quicker.
Interesting. And Jamie, how did you talk about being a global business? Was that from day one?
Yes, it was. I started an agency in 1999, and I sold that in 2012. And when I sold that came with some restrictions on clients that I could deal with in the UK. So for us, naturally, it was to look global. And it's really just playing off the UK, you know, for anybody, it's not a massive secret, but we are seen as a creative hub. And, you know, for people that sort of don't realize that and haven't used that, it really does work well. You know, we sort of pitch against some of the larger agencies in San Francisco, in all the territories that we work in. And we're the exotic ones because we're from the UK. So people that are not sort of pulling from that, it's an opportunity missed. And for us, then opening actual offices in those territories came about by winning government work and the necessity to actually have to have a physical office in those territories. At the beginning, we were servicing it all from the UK. And then when we won a particular client in the US was our first sort of overseas physical office. It was based on, we were just about to sign the contract and they said, you're not an American company and you need to be. So we quickly set up there. And then the same thing happened in Dubai. The same thing happened in China. And then we've gone on to actually then further opening up other offices. But for me, that sort of global mindset was, yeah, most definitely there from the start. And it's just pulling them from I swear we've sold projects based on the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. So it's using that sort of great British creativity and being massively supported by, the DIT. It's what they can actually offer businesses is incredible. And likewise with the UKAEG.
Thank you so much. And what's interesting there is that the strategy for you is you get the business and the offices follow. You don't set up the offices and then start looking for business. Get the business first and then find your infrastructure.
Yeah, and that was the plan at the start, and that very much sort of happened. We have now though sort of opened up offices. Amsterdam was a sort of an aggressive open, and then likewise with Madrid.
Is Amsterdam quite recent, Jamie?
Amsterdam's now 2.5 years old, and out of all of our offices is leading. And
was this because you had a strategy for how to maintain your place in Europe?
It was based around when we saw Brexit happening, but also around, we really encourage staff to want to go and open up other offices. And it was one of my team in Dubai that came to me with a plan saying, I want to go home and open an office in Amsterdam, and I supported it.
Brilliant. So there's two things that have come up as you both taught that I'd like to spend a bit of time on. The first is how you sell yourselves using the UK brand, as it were, as part of your sales strategy. And of course, that's so relevant to what Ashlyn was introducing at the beginning in terms of UK Advertising Export Group, where, by being a member of this group, you get the added benefit of being able to sell yourself as one of a bigger cohort, if that's relevant to you. I'm also interested in Liverpool versus London and how you can use geography and, cities in order to support you. I'm just curious about what are your selling messages? When you say I'm from the UK and that means that, what do you say? Shall we start with Andy?
Oh, I'm from the UK, and that means I think it's very much down to who you are as a business and what you're trying to sell. Like for us, the kind of the adventure and innovation that comes from, right, when we first went over there, the immediate things that were referenced were Rolling Stones, because they don't see geography as any kind of connection. Liverpool could be next door to London for all they knew. Some of them knew the Beatles, but quickly, like Monty Python, like innovative, exciting areas, not just in technology, but in comedy and in media in general, were the big exports. And I think for us, that really aligned with what we were trying to sell.
You could ride on the coattails of that.
Yeah, and also it just helps for folks with low imagination, and you kind of need imagination because I've got sunlight streaming in dramatically, blocking out my video. But for folks without so much imagination or an understanding of what we do, aligning ourselves with that angle really helps people, and they kind of globally have assumptions about the reputation and the standing of what to expect from UK businesses is very high.
Great. How about you, Marie?
It's a really good question, but I think for us, we're trying to probably break down some of the assumptions about the UK. So obviously I have a very strong Scottish accent and I live in Edinburgh. So people assume globally that perhaps I live in like by Loch Lomond's in a castle-esque type of house, which unfortunately I don't. I mean, I think the first thing is the UK has a really strong identity abroad, and we should all make the most of that. You know, when you talk about being from the UK and you talk about Liverpool or London, and people have a sense of what these places are. They might not understand them, you know, in the truth, but at least they understand a bit about it. And there's a want to do business with the UK, and for me, for people to want to travel to the UK. But as I say, you have to break down some assumptions about the weather, for example. So again, they think it rains every single day, and about some of the sort of chocolate box, you know, red foam boxes or castles, like I've mentioned, that they've seen on television, or they've you know, they've seen if they've been on some sort of travel program about Scotland or England. But I think there's a lot of trust in the UK and how we do business. I think people think it's a really safe place to do business. I think people really are appreciative of our history and heritage. That's talked a lot about in the campaigns that we work on. I think they know that they're going to get a really high-end service. So in terms of in our business, things about equipment and crew and freelance crew and capabilities, and so I think there's a strong trust before you've even started to do business, and I think that's a real positive. And you know, circling back to what you said, Janet, about being a part of a group like this, where all our businesses are very different and quite diverse, but when it comes down to it, we have all of this opportunity to sell that UK sort of message. And I think that's why it's really important to be involved in something that doesn't feel quite like direct sales, but very much, you know, it helps with our sort of brand and identity.
Thank you. And Zaid, would you like to add comment around this particular area? How you sell the UK? Do you sell the UK in that sense?
No, we don't sell the UK. We're actually, I think, on the whole, we have inbound interest. So the UK is already something they're aware of, and it's not a selling point. So we're not really, our business doesn't have a big outbound marketing strategy where we're having to go in and say, you haven't heard from us, we're from the UK, and that means X, Y, and Z. And actually, interestingly, on the chat, in the chat room, there's a guy called Rob Brown making a distinction here between inbound and outbound marketing initiatives and what that means for talent, etc. And it's way more complex than that. I don't think the answer lies in one or the other, but I think for us, yeah, the UK is just a brilliant ratification, if you like, of how good we are, rather than something that we use to take out to new prospects in other markets.
Can I just ask though, in your pitch process, do you often find yourself up against agencies from other markets? So in that sense, is the UK in competition with other markets around the world?
Yeah, we definitely do. So we've often found ourselves pitching against local agencies, and I guess we, in that situation, will point to the quality of our team, the quality of our experiences, and so in that sense, I guess we're indirectly suggesting that, you know, the UK is a superior destination nation for great talent and great ideas. So, and I think it's an indirect thing. I think just by showcasing the clients, the people, and the talent, I think it's implicit. It's
implicit rather than a selling message.
It's implicit. Yeah. But
yeah.
It's obvious.
Yeah, interesting though that it's one of the things, therefore, that does add value.
I think so. Without a doubt. you know, and I think also our ability to build teams that can develop ideas that can travel globally is going to be predicated on being part of a metropolis or 2 or 3 in the UK, where you can draw in on international talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember working at Mother in London many years ago, and I was always struck by how a London agency could create such big global campaigns for the likes of Coke, and it was because the team was multinational. I genuinely believe that by having lots of languages within your business and cultures, be them acquired diversity or innate diversity, I think that really helps. I think London is definitely the place in my mind. I'm sure Liverpool and Manchester as well, but my experience has been London's been a brilliant place to hire that kind of talent.
Now, that's a really good point, isn't it? And Jamie, when you talked about your personnel at the beginning, you were proud of how many languages you spoke. So multicultural Britain is part of our proposition too, which can be very attractive in a global context. How do you use it?
Absolutely. I mean, for us, I think it's really important to have that sort of diverse talent, and those people might be working in various different countries for us, but for us, you know, at the heart of it, we are a British company, and we always, you know, the fact that we have what I think 23 different nationalities on staff at the moment, and working across, you know, 10 different offices. But for us, we are a UK-based company, and we do use that, you know, not in a sort of an outbound perspective, but I think that just perceived quality, and, you know, and the UK really is seen on a global landscape as a creative hub, and we sort of play off that. So sort of proud of that, proud of the fact we're a UK-based creative agency.
Thank you. And I'm just thinking about that, you know, perceived quality and trust. You know, in marketing terms, perceived quality and trust normally means you can charge a premium.
Unfortunately not.
How does it work? Can you actually charge more because you're from the UK relative to some of the competition you come up against? Anybody got any evidence of that? Just put up, you know, choose to speak if you have a story to tell around that.
I mean, for us, we try and provide really good value. We typically come in more expensive than a local agency in one of the areas that we're pitching, but you know, not as expensive as one of the sort of larger global network agencies.
How about you, Marie?
Yeah, I think we're perceived as more expensive than we actually are. So when we actually be able to talk to somebody about a budget, or even a sort of guesstimate of what a budget will be. But what was coming to mind there, Janet, when you spoke, is, you know, I think our industry sometimes does not, in the past, has tried not to pay fair rates, especially to sort of junior people, runners, etc. And there's been a big push by the APA over the years for fair rates for all. So I think in some ways our clients are, they understand our costs, because they understand it's because we're paying fair rates for people to be able to live where they want to live, to be in an industry they want to work in, and to be able to have a life, you know, pay a mortgage or pay their rent by doing that. So I think that's helped stabilize our messaging in terms of the cost. So I think it's a fair cost. We might be more expensive than, say, somewhere like Prague or the Ukraine, for example, but potentially a lot cheaper than somewhere like LA, for example. They don't necessarily know that, so that's our opportunity. And then I think, coming back to some of Andy's discussions about regions, and a big part of why I started this company was to try and get work to come to Scotland to start off with in the very initial stages, because I think there was a lot of undiscovered location opportunity and potential in terms of crew, and letting people live and work in Edinburgh, Glasgow, Inverness, and not have to move to London. And I think regionally, the UK is so diverse. There's a lot of opportunity post-COVID as well, with that now that's happening more naturally. So allow people to live where they want to live and be paid fair rates. And I think fairness is, you know, it's important, and I think we're viewed for that. So our cost is reflective of that, if that makes sense.
So you can justify it.
Yeah, because and you know, you can just, our budgets are very open. You can see line by line exactly what you're paying for. But so it makes it, and I think by having a guideline from someone like the APA, which really their kind of rates now cross between stills photography stills campaigns right into the commercial side. I think it's helped set a level. And again, brands can feel they understand what they're spending their money on, and that is investing in great crew to deliver their project. Where maybe in some other countries it might be cheaper, but that might not be as clear as it is in the UK.
Got it. So the last area that I'm interested in discussing with you is the role that being part of UKAEG and being in an industry partnership with government might have contributed to your success. It's interesting that Andy started Going Global by tipping up to a 2014 big expo in the States. And Jamie's mentioned DIT, and Zaid has said, and I got into China thanks to UKAEG. So I'm interested to know, obviously we're interested to share with people on this webinar what role this combined activity, this joint activity can play in supporting your growth and in supporting your exhibition, your showcase opportunities around the world. Can we start with Jamie? Because I think you've just virtually come back from participating in South by Southwest with UKAEG and DIT. How was it?
It was fantastic, and I think I was lucky enough to be a part of a proper, visiting South by Southwest in 2019, and part of sort of the DIT mission then. And one of the key things that I take from this, or we've had from this, is the collaboration with other businesses that are on the same trip as you. So I've been lucky enough to be a part of various different trade missions, and what's come from it is not only on occasion new clients, but also collaboration with other agencies that are looking to do the same thing. So really sort of looking to how we can all do this together, and we're a full service agency, but we don't specialize in certain areas. But what we have managed to take out of it is collaborative projects that we've pitched together and won. So South by Southwest was incredible this year. Virtual is, I think, what you managed to achieve was very impressive, and I know that not just myself but other members of my team managed to sort of attend and be at some of the talks and make some really great relationships. And what you're able to do, sending out those packages to potential clients, they love it, and they were raving about it on social. So it was for us a huge success. And to Andy's point earlier, there's no jet lag now. So it's literally, if you're willing to stay up until, in this instance, I think the conversations all starting about 6 o'clock in the evening. So if you're willing to give up your evenings, you can now be everywhere. And I think personally, for us, this has just shown that we can be far more global, far more, quicker. I know that we're planning to open up further offices overseas because we can be in so many different countries.
So obviously, you've got both new business but also new collaborations, which in effect are business partnerships through being part of these missions and part of UKAEG. Zaid, what's your story with China?
So through DIT, yourself, Ashton, Stephen, the opportunity to go to the Shanghai International Festival of Advertising was made available, where I met Jamie, and that was absolutely brilliant to get on stage. And I think live our show, as it were, was broadcast to thousands, like a huge community of marketeers, I think in their tens of thousands dialed in. So that was an amazing exposure. And then when we came back to London, I think we were recommended to engage with Oppo, I think thanks to the UKAEG as well. And because of our previous work with OnePlus, that kind of served to support our bid as well. And that was a fantastic kind of new business lead. But I think that from my experience in new business, you don't ever rely on one partnership. It's about many partnerships, but it was definitely has been very lucrative on that level. And then again, my reflection is, having worked in a big network agency, you rely on the network to create all the security and knowledge and inspiration that you would apply to your day-to-day work and clients. And when you work in an independent agency, you really need to create your own network and create your own luck, as it were. So for me, being able to call, when we had certain challenges with some clients, being able to call the DIT and say, look, have you heard of this before? How are other agencies dealing with it? That's been incredibly useful. Is it just us, or are other people having challenges with this client? Again, that's an incredibly useful conversation to have. And then just the network and an opportunity to be connected, build that knowledge, form new partnerships. So for us, it's been fantastic. And I think there's just a badge of pride. I think the UKAEG brand is just fantastic, and it has such confidence and swagger, as it should have, because it's representing this brilliant kind of hub of creativity. And I think being attached to that positive momentum is great oxygen for my people and my business as well, and for my clients, because like the IPA, like the Ad Association, these are incredibly professional, grown-up, inspiring, experienced organizations that allow small businesses to go to their clients and say, look, we're legit, we're the real thing, we're just better because we're independent. So for us, it's been fantastic.
Thank you so much. Andy, what about your thoughts on this?
We couldn't have made those initial kind of forays out internationally, and over the years. Well, like when we started off, we were, a much smaller studio. We couldn't have done that without the support of the DIT and trade missions and some of the people in the kind of the local Liverpool council, and in the understanding of supporting a Liverpool-based business trying to do it. And it was only a little bit of support just gives you that confidence to get out there. So I'd really encourage people to make partnerships with these different organizations and chat to people. And I know there can be a lot of confusion and red tape of things that you can apply for and go get involved with, but it's worth it. Because actually those partnerships and relationships that you have on the ground when you're out in these locations are so valuable, because they have a knowledge and a network that's already established. South by Southwest is a perfect example of just like, it was a crazy, chaotic mess of a show, but they were able to kind of perceive the value through that and help you wind to the kind of real incredible points and how to meet with people. And I would highly recommend getting involved.
Thank you. And Marie, what is your experience? How has being part of a bigger group supported you, and having DIT support?
I think it does give you the confidence to just do it. It's easy to say, just do it, just go to LA and find some clients and come home with some new information, but it's not as easy as that when it comes to apps actually doing it. So I think having this sort of the community and the peers of people that are on the screen and wider, really helps in terms of listening to the real stories. You say people have to work hard to make this happen and take some calculated risks. People like Scottish Enterprise and Scottish Development International were really supportive of us in the beginning when we are very much a Scottish focused company. And as we've grown and got bigger, of course, across the UK, I think DIT is a great example. But you only get from these relationships what you put into them. You can't expect to just be given stuff or be asked to go on a trade mission or be supported unless they can understand you as a company and what you're trying to achieve and why. And I think it's fantastic that the UK government are really looking at creative industries and the opportunities it brings economically to the whole country, not just our companies, and understanding what creative companies actually do. Yes, we make cool stuff, but underneath it, we employ a lot of people either internally or from a freelance point of view, and give opportunities to lots of local businesses and local suppliers, creating partnerships with local, which we wouldn't do without bringing the business in the first place. So I think it's building that relationship that's really important, and having access to government or politicians or people who can help carry that message into the, because I can understand it's not always a easily understood industry, but personally and through LS Productions, we've had some brilliant support, which has allowed us to take that first step and go to a big shiny event in LA and be the only UK or definitely Scottish voice in the crowd, and just learn and listen and create relationships that might not initially feel like they make lead to business, but that's how business comes about. It's all about relationships. So it's allowing us to create these relationships, which I think is so exciting.
Thank you so much. So UKAEG is a relationship with government. There are 4 trade associations involved with it. So members of those trade associations can obviously become part of it. The APA, the DMA, the IPA and the AA, but we're also open to businesses that aren't in those memberships. So anybody can join. We currently have just over 50 companies in membership. This is Export Month for us, the last day of our annual Export Month. We're looking to double our representation in the next 6 months. So we're open for business. So if you're on this webinar and interested in what you've heard, it costs £2,500 a year to be part of UKAEG, and you get so much benefit out of it. So it's really worth every penny. In fact, we should be doubling the charge, really. But I suppose that's up for Ashlyn to decide. Thank you so much to the panelists, Marie, Zaid, Jamie and Andy. I'm going to pass back to Ashlyn. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We have some questions that have come in, and just if anyone else has questions, just a reminder to use the Q&A function on the bottom of the panel. So it's the last icon, if you like, on your right. The first one that I'm going to go to is just, Zaid, you had touched upon Rob's question, and it would just be good to hear what other people on the panel think in relation to that. So Rob asked, does the requirement for having offices, colleagues in market vary depending on whether you are working on inbound, global business into the UK, or outbound, UK business to global marketing? Does anybody want to add anything extra to Zaid's thoughts on that earlier?
I can only so much as what I mentioned before. So we physically had to have people on the ground when we won government contracts. So particular countries you can work with without having to. You can do governmental work without having to have a physical office or an address there. But for us, that was, for instance, I know that, Saudi Arabia have just stipulated that by 2024, to do any government contracts, you have to have an office on the ground. And to get onto the government procurement portal, you have to be registered in Saudi. So for us, that's that's one of the next markets that we're looking at. But I think you can most definitely export away. It depends on what sort of if it's private clients or government.
Would anybody else like to add anything?
We don't really need offices out in other territories, but I think we need people in the network. And that's why sometimes I will have a person work, because I think that in amongst what's going on, the part of the social aspect, the part of the networking groups, they're just listening. So I think it gives us a real sense rather than a distant sense of what's happening. So at the moment, we don't really need offices, but people, and that could be people that you employ or just people that you partner with or you just like, or you have a beer with on Zoom at the end of the month or anything. But I think it's having people on the ground in the territories you want to work with. So you're not making any assumptions, just as I was saying, people make assumptions about the UK. So just to make sure on the flip side, I think. And I find that incredibly helpful. And then I think eventually, and then in more normal times, you do make the effort to get out there and spend some time there yourself or your team or whoever's the best placed person to go. And I think that's massively appreciated in that time. And again, it's just relationships, it boils down to that.
Yeah, and relationships to understand the idiosyncrasies of a location. You you would make assumptions about, you know, Liverpool, London, Scotland, and the same would happen, you know, exporting to America, Europe, Asia, and having someone on the ground that can help you through that, I think, is incredibly important. And yeah, having a beer with over Zoom or in person, I think, is a great way. You know, those kind of coffee shop at a bar moments where you can actually get to know and get into the kind of nitty gritty of a location and a people, I think are really important for understanding the heart, and similarly why you can export the heart of the UK and our particular idiosyncrasies out there.
100%.
Thank you. Zaid, you had touched upon the idea of sort of the diversity of the UK creative sector, and there's a question from Antoinette, but Sophie has also made a comment in the chat to say that your conversation has been really encouraging to hear, but she also has a question around what support is here for UK agency owners from underrepresented backgrounds who want to grow globally. You know, sometimes needs are different and the industry is challenging enough. I wonder if anyone has any advice or insights that they could share with Sophie. Obviously, UKAEG is the first place I would start.
Yeah, I would back that up, actually. And it's that, and obviously the DIT, and you know, there's a London and Partners. There are a number of different support groups and support sort of organisations that will help everybody go global. But I would start with UKAEG and a network of friendly agencies that sort of support each other, and also the DIT.
I think within that, there's just a question around, you know, if you come from an ethnic minority background and you don't represent the typical face of the UK, how can those individuals and agencies being led by those type of people succeed or overcome international challenges? I mean, I definitely, my experience of having lived in China was that I wasn't deemed British because I didn't look British, and if being British is part of the appeal of working with an English agency, then I'm sure that may or may not be kind of a challenge to people's expectations. And my experience, and I'm one of the very few kind of CEOs in our UK industry from an ethnic background, is that fundamentally help is about people, networks, and mindset. And so I don't think there is go out there, get a hold of a solution. But I think I would say all independent agencies have to create their own luck. And there's great deal of jeopardy for all of us. And it's not like we've all got guaranteed routes to market. I think we're all entrepreneurs, we're all starting from scratch, and we all have to overcome many, many challenges. So I think maybe start with that as the outlook, which is no one's predestined to get this right. And then start with what you're really passionate about, because it's your passion and what you can bring to the table with clients that help you get over that initial kind of hurdle that you may or may not think you have. So I would say we all have to create our own luck, be passionate and brilliant at what you do, and you will break through. I mean, I have it as well if I think about my interest in going to the Middle East and selling them. I've got a Middle Eastern background. You'd think that I'm the perfect recipe for Middle Eastern business, but I'm not, because I think a lot of Middle Eastern brands want to buy British and what they think Britain means from an ethnic point of view, as well as a specialist talent point of view. So you'd have thought that would be an easy market for me to go into, but it's not. In some instances, I think I would cast differently to someone like myself. So I'm afraid it's a reality, but we all got to make our own luck. It's mindset, passion, determination, and you will get through.
I think I was going to just pick up, sorry, Andy, just about imposter syndrome. I think it's so important to recognize it, that I think everyone or most people feel that just before we came on this panel this morning, I was thinking, oh my God, why have they asked me? I don't know what I'm going to say, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's important to just recognize that. And in some ways, a little bit like Zaid says, is own your story. Be honest about your story. Be authentic. I think it's really important to just be honest. We don't have to pretend to be anything. We are entrepreneurs. We are sort of masters of our own destiny, and that's exciting and also very, very scary sometimes. But I think you can show your vulnerabilities and your authenticity, and I think people really get to know you, like what you said, Andy, you're just getting to know the person. And for me, that's always stood me good stead in business. And you know, people talk a lot about women in business and women in this, and I just think, you know, great. I think we have to throw the door open and give everyone the opportunities to be seen and heard. But to do that, you have to just be yourself. You can't be anybody else. And I think that's getting slightly easier now. And I think if people like us and the UKAEG continue to push that and have many voices around the table, then it will just continue to get, hopefully, that little bit easier.
The imposter syndrome will never end. It's gonna be, it will just change and morph into kind of different styles. And I think it's on just getting stuck in, like just go with your gut and trust yourself, and let that little kind of imposter syndrome little character on your shoulder be with you as a character on your journey to check things. But on diversity, certainly in the video games and the immersive experience industry, diversity is fucking awful. Pardon my French, but so it's also our responsibility as business owners to make sure that we're trying to change that and inspiring kids that these industries as things that they can get into from diverse backgrounds, and we're finding it terribly difficult. We're trying to partner with companies to start, but this is it's going to be a long process to try and encourage the next generation to feel like these are industries they can get into and that represent them.
Thank you, everybody. I think there's some love for the responses to those questions in the chat there. So we have one other question, which is from Judith, and I'm going to try and read this out correctly. So, how do your strategies incorporate data protection and privacy compliance, and how do you build data protection and privacy into your technology and activities?
I can take this. I mean, every territory or every country has got different rules. So for us, it's making sure that you're abiding by those rules and challenging them at times. You know, so there was a government rule in the Middle East, as an example, that we managed to put a good enough case forward for them to change it at governmental level, and that was there was a government law that you had to host a website in the UAE if it was for the UAE, if it was for the Dubai government, and so we put forward a strong case that if it's looking at, and in this instance, it's a piece of work that we do for Dubai government and global foreign direct investment. And we're able to put forward a case of saying, well, you know, you're looking at a global audience, so why not be able to host it globally? And we were able to get past that. But from a data protection standpoint and everything, it's making sure that you understand the laws in the particular country and abide by them. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much. And we're going to wrap up on the hour. I hope everybody has found this incredibly useful this morning. It is the first of what we hope will be a series of events in which we can do knowledge shares with everybody around how to grow a global business strategy. So before I give a summary, I want to say a massive thank you, and my voice is going, but a massive thank you to Janet Hull, Marie Owen, Andy Cooper, Zaidy, Jamie Sargent, and everyone backstage who was helping make this event work. My summary of all of everything that's been said this morning is that there is clearly many reasons why global clients have been drawn to the UK over the years. We also know that the UK is the most awarded advertising hub per capita. What is clear is it's definitely home to some of the world's leading storytellers. Our geographic position in the world makes it the perfect time zone for working globally. We can now cater for USA and Asia and everywhere in between, as everyone has mentioned. You've just got to go for it and make sure you want to give up your mornings and your evenings. It was also touched upon about our truly international population, where our diversity as a nation means that we can think globally and we can act hyperlocally. We speak many languages, and we also attract creative talent from all over the world. And the other point that I would say that came across is that just the UK is the world's most advanced digital advertising economy. And we know that we are third in size to the US and China. It was also kind of from the panel, what I kind of got was that the UK has a rich creative history. We know from fashion to film and the effect that that's had on art and advertising, and also the long history in international trading. We would love for any company that is global or that is interested in global to get in touch with me. You can do that. I'll pop my email into the chat in a moment, but also the website for anyone who wants to take a look at UKAEG is www.ukaeg.com. We will also be launching a members only hub, which we call the Accelerator. And that is where we're going to help people work out what markets they should be looking at through our strategy, and then we will provide insights and stats and information around those as well. So that's something that will be opening next month, which is tomorrow. So without further ado, again, thank you to all the panelists, and we look forward to hearing from you all very soon. Have a fantastic day. I hope the sun is still shining for you all.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Goodbye.
Bye.